He's been away, it's given me the opportunity to eat all of his candy in his top drawer. Also eat your Subway cookie as well, so that's gone. I've of course left the wrapper there for you though. So adjusted your seat settings, as I know you're pretty finicky about that one as well. It's all of the coffee in the office, not replaced it naturally. I also have a British flag now draped across the office. What's up guys, and welcome to this week's McInnes Marketing Minute. You will see we are J-less this week, so it's more the Ben Robinson Marketing Minute this week. Jay is away into Fino, which is, if you're watching the video, it's further right than this map behind me shows. As you guys have followed us through the weeks, you'll see and hear that we like to talk about what we're seeing, hearing, learning, experiencing in the market. And then of course we go through that process and then we deliver the content to you, whether you're reading it, listening as a podcast, or whether you're viewing the video. And we've been in the game for a while now, so we'll never say that we've learned everything, but sometimes there are things that still do quite shock you. So we of course always try to practice what we preach, and one of the things that we preach on a regular basis is honesty is the best policy. So that's a lot of it of telling you what you need to hear versus what you want to hear. And we had this video is actually based on a listing presentation we did last week, and it actually shocked us quite a bit at the effect in which that can have. So to put a bit of context in the mix for you, we had a listing presentation last week with a client. He'd had his property on the market already. It had been taken off after a few months on the market. Obviously was unsuccessful in selling the home. They just needed a break from the showings and from the open houses. And he's kind of at a loss. He was having a discussion with us. He keeps pretty up to date with the market. And he just at a loss as to why his home hadn't sold. He had a conversation with his old realtor, what he wanted to achieve for the place. The realtor had said to put the market on at that price that he wanted to achieve. So he was ready to go, putting it on the market, thinking he was up to date, understood the market had come down, so thought he had adjusted for that, and it was going to sell, he was going to be able to sell and move on somewhere else. So he's not desperate to sell, he has some goals in which he wanted to achieve, but by no stretch of the means desperate in a bad financial position to sell at all. Obviously just wanted to take the next step, and selling was part of that process. So in having this conversation with him, the place is very nice. It's in a desirable area downtown. It was listed for privacy, I'll give a range of between 1.1 and 1.2 million. So it's in a very nice building as well, in a very nice area. So that's typically, if that was 2016, 2017, that would have just been gone like that. However, through the market correction, that changes things. So they had it on the market, didn't sell, had a couple of price reductions, didn't sell, and so he's now left baffled and unable to buy something and essentially take advantage of the market the way it is now. Because obviously, even if you sell low, you're also buying low. So when he came in, we did our regular listing presentation, which was we go over some active properties in the area, focusing mainly on the sold comparables in the area. And we break it down to kind of like square foot among other things as well. And in going through this comparable, we had a conversation in which I needed to tell him that he had to reduce his price by $100,000 in order to make it market value. So don't forget guys, market value is what somebody is willing to pay in the market at this current time for your property. Now typically when we have any sort of price discussion with somebody, especially when it comes to a reduction, or especially of that amount, there can be a number of things that follow. It can be tears, it can be anger, a variety of emotions, shouting, storming out. We've seen quite a lot of reactions, but the next one actually shocked me so much because I looked at the gentleman, told him this, and that's $100,000 to bring him down to market value. So not for a quick fire sale at all, that's just to bring him down to market value. And he sat there with the biggest smile and gave off the biggest sigh of relief. Now, that shocked even me. I had no idea why that's the case. But what happened was he was at such a loss because he thought he was at market value and he still couldn't sell his home. And in going through those comparables, and discussing where the price needs to be, he actually had a huge sense of relief because he realized now how he could get from point A to B and why he wasn't getting there in the first place. What happened was he was just a victim of saying what he would have liked to achieve from it, and the agent not being able to, his previous agent not being able to turn around and say, I'm sorry you want to achieve that, however, this is where the market is. A lot of people see it as a very difficult conversation, want to get the business and don't want to let their client down, so they just avoid that conversation and go with what their client's expectations and what their client's wants are. Now it turns out at this new price that we discussed, it's still fine for our client to be able to meet those needs in which he wants to achieve from the property. It obviously just would have been nicer to get more, but the goals in which he had set forward, he can actually achieve them at this new price. So he had a huge sigh of relief. And I mean, for a $100,000 drop in price to your home, that's never a reaction that you would expect anyway going into it. So he was over the moon about this. He was able to actually see where he went wrong, see what the problem was, and how to rectify it moving forward. And that honesty of how to get from A to B and what needed to happen, to him far outweighed the fact that he would have to reduce the property by $100,000. And so because of that honesty, that won us the business. He was extremely thankful. He was glad that we told it to him straight how it is, so that he wasn't shocked when it came to the price that we put at the end of the book. He knew how he was going to get from A to B, and he knew what the plan of action was moving forward. And that honesty really, really freed up his ability to take that next step. So I mean, taking us and our responsibility out of it and getting the business and getting it sold, it was actually the difference between him being able to go from A to B and achieve that next goal. So we're practicing what we preach, guys, honesty. And we will always tell you what you need to hear versus what you want to hear. And that's exactly why we titled this blog, video, or podcast, however you're tuning in, Buyers and Sellers, the Truth Will Set You Free. Because even if it's not what you want to hear, and even if you do shout, scream, get mad and angry, you'll at least know where you're going wrong and what you need to do in order to achieve success. If that's too much for you at that time, or it doesn't work for you, then that's fine. You can make that decision yourself. However, you will always know what you need to do in order to achieve success. So when you're out there, when you're speaking to agents, when you're either buying or whether you're selling, if you look at the figures, like we keep on saying, if you mainly focus on what it is that you need to do to achieve success, that's what's going to get you there. And that sometimes is the case of what you need to hear versus what you want to hear. So that's it for this week, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Jay will be back with us next week unless something drastic happens in Tofino. Thank you so much as always. Please do drop your comments. Jay feels that him missing from the video this week is going to have a negative effect. I actually happen to think the opposite. So leave your comments below on that. Leave your comments on the video. Please do send us a social media follow. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.